Happy Monday, movie fans. Welcome to the sneak preview. I'm Connor Izagari,
I'm Austin Johnson.
and this is episode 3 of our newest podcast dedicated to following the current film release calendar. Today's episode will focus on the January 15th Amazon Prime release, One Night in Miami, an enlightening what-if civil rights era drama from Regina King and Kemp Powers. But before we get into that, we got to see what happened last week in film. Last week in film. So it was a lengthy week. Quite a lot of news just popped up here and there. So I gathered what I could find. And here's kind of the highlights. First up, trailers. So I have 4 trailers I want to discuss. First up, the second trailer for the upcoming Judas and the Black Messiah was released. That's currently set for a February 12th release on HBO Max. Have you gotten a chance to check that trailer out, Austin?
I've spoken a bit about trailers in my life. This is one that I've skipped because I don't need to see it. I'm gonna watch the movie no matter what, and I can't wait. I think it looks spectacular from the photographs I've seen, and I've stayed away from like a full length trailer for like that. Malcolm and Marie is another one I have skipped, and I think I know what I'm getting into, and it's going to be good.
Fair enough. I like trailers because I want to see kind of, I want a little tease of like, what is this going to be? And
for sure.
The 2 trailers they've released for Judas and the Black Messiah so far could not be further apart. The first trailer is very, dramatic and almost action-packed and unflinching, while the second one is very soft and very like lighthearted, almost like, this could be something that's going to make you cry as opposed to something that's going to piss you off. So with those 2 trailers in mind, I'm very intrigued what the final tone of this film is going to be. So
yeah.
I'm psyched for that big time, and I'm so happy it's going to be getting an HBO Max release.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I cannot wait for that one. It's definitely, if I had a list of my most anticipated movies of the year, that would be somewhere in the top 5. I think Lakeith and Kaluuya are 2 of the most special performers right now. They're smack dab I think they're about to start their prime and, really take it away. In particular, I have a strong connection to Lakeith. I really, really like that guy. I think he's going to kind of blow people away again. He's going to keep doing that until people totally believe it.
Yeah, for sure. I think both these guys are going to have a huge boost with this movie. I mean, just from the little bit we've seen, Daniel Kaluuya is completely unrecognizable. And that's amazing. When you get to see an actor really disappear, it's amazing. It does not happen often. People like to think it happens all the time. It really doesn't. And this looks very special. So I've got my eye on this one.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be a movie we highlight on this show, and I think it's safe to say that we're both anticipating not just to be entertained by it, but for it to be a special movie.
Yeah, it's the story of Fred Hampton. Very exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, the first trailer for The United States versus Billie Holiday was released. That's looking at a February 26th release on Hulu. Another film that looks very frustrating and informative. It's a story of Billie Holiday and her fight to play the song Strange Fruit at a time where the nation was heavily, on a powder keg. So I think that looks fantastic. I'm loving this surge. I think 2021 is looking like an amazing year for independent film.
Oh yeah.
Like the blockbuster is kind of dead right now. And this is looking like we're getting a lot more films that wouldn't usually shine are getting an opportunity to really pop. And that is just fucking great. And this is one of those films for sure.
Yeah, it is dead, because the box office is dead. So you can't you can't be a, you know, MCU movie. You know, you can't be Infinity War or Endgame right now. You just can't do it. It's impossible. So you're right. I think this is a chance for films like that to thrive, you know. And I think 2020 had some stuff to like some really special independent films to offer. I just think people weren't ready, you know, for that to be the norm. But it's going to be the norm. It's going to be the norm this year, and you're going to see more. I'm excited. I think it's great. I think it's good for movies in general, for whatever, however big or whatever the movie, you know, cinephile community is. I think it's good that the majority of it is getting excited about movies like the ones we're talking about here. I think that's a big deal. I think that's something we can be positive about with the way the landscape is changing. And I'm excited to be along for the ride this year, to see, like you said, these independent films just kind of be in the spotlight.
I'm a sucker for, like, as much as I love a good blockbuster, as much as I love to sit there and, you know, be spoon fed an action thriller or a Marvel movie or a, you know, comic book remake, all this shit. I love it, but I am a sucker for original stories and true stories. And that's looking like what we're going to be getting most of this year. So I say bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait.
Next up, the trailer for Cherry, looking like a February 26th release on Apple TV Plus. Tom Holland stars as a PTSD suffering ex-soldier who becomes a bank robber. It's from the Russo brothers, the guys who gave us Infinity War and Endgame. This is their next project. This looks very intriguing. Big career step for Tom Holland. I think he's really trying to kind of shed the Spider-Man image and become his own actor. We saw that with The Devil All the Time, and I think this is just going to propel that forward even more.
Yeah, I think Tom Holland, if he's to make any smart moves right now, it is to not just be Spider-Man. I thought he did a damn good job in The Devil All the Time, right? Just a few months back, honestly. And this film, you know, I watched the trailer for this one. This is one where I'm like, let's see what's going on here, you know. And I think Tom Holland has the potential to not just shed the, you know, being pigeonholed as Spider-Man. I think he has potential to like become an awesome action actor, like awesome, where he can do things that are dramatic, where he clearly has the willingness to change his voice and do different things. And I love that at his age already, that he's not just going to be Spider-Man. You know, these characters are important, and this film Cherry looks special. I think it's going to put him in the proper spot that I wanted The Devil All the Time to do, but Robert Pattinson just stole that shit. So
yeah, he really did.
So yeah, I'm excited for that, man. I do think it's one that I would like to cover. We have access to that, so we'll see what's up when it comes out in late February.
Yes, indeed, we will. And the last trailer I want to talk about kind of came out of nowhere and is now something I'm very much looking forward to. A film called Willy's Wonderland, set for a February 12th release in theaters and on demand. It's Nicolas Cage versus Chuck E. Cheese, basically. And I could not be more excited.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, you know, for listeners that, you know, have known us on Filmgasm and whatnot, we've always kind of joked about how we haven't actually covered any films that like properly, you know, covered any films. We did a Coen episode. Of course, we talked about him, but we haven't properly done a Nicolas Cage film, you know, and this show provides a good little opportunity. So, yeah, man, this is one I watched too. You know, the trailer thing I think is actually a really cool conversation, because I don't know where the line is personally for me. I just, when I know, and deep down when I see the idea for a film, see kind of who's in it, who's involved, sometimes I'm just like, I don't really want to know anything that's going to happen. I want to go in blind.
Yeah.
I'll just go with my prior knowledge, but then I don't know where the line is, because I watched these trailers here. It was really just the first film we talked about, Judas and the Black Messiah. That's the only trailer I haven't watched of these films we're talking about. And I'm not sure where the line is, Connor, but I but I've drawn it somewhere, and I don't know. I think also being where I am now, where I watch so many old movies and just go into it not knowing shit, and I love that. It's been very rewarding at times. So I think part of me wants to try that sometimes with the newer movies. It's not a very easy because the trailer's everywhere. It's all over social media and all that stuff. But I do like occasionally to just go into something completely blind if I can.
That makes sense. You see a cast list, you see stills, and you already think like this movie's gonna rock. I love this. I don't need to be sold this. They already sold me. I get that.
Yeah, like you didn't need to see the trailer for Endgame. Like I'm in. All the previous work it shows. The work is there. So yeah, I feel similarly about when some movies come out. Like I remember the Parasite trailer when that dropped. I was like, I don't know. I've heard there was like a storm around that movie, and I was like, I think I'm just going to go into this, and it was rewarding.
Well, that was unique because the trailer really didn't tell you anything.
Nah. Kind of like that Hereditary trailer, right? Like that one was weird. We were working at the theater then, no. So it was very hard to miss trailers when working at the theater. Yeah.
Totally. That's it for trailers. So let's talk some news.
Yes, sir.
So this was interesting. I remember there was a big fight between Warner Brothers and Lionsgate for this to happen, and it finally has. The upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong has been confirmed to be getting an HBO Max release and has been moved up to a March 26th release date. So this is really cool. As much as I wanted to see this film on the big screen, I'm not going to, now that I can watch it on HBO Max. And I know this is going to be ridiculous. It's Godzilla versus Kong. What more do you need to know? I don't give a shit who's in this. This is
right. Yeah. Here's one where, no, I'm good. Doesn't matter. I'm so in, Yeah. I love watching monsters attack. And if there's two monsters attacking each other, yes, sign me up.
The main thing I am really looking forward to in this movie is finding out just how exactly it's not a 5-minute long movie, because how does Godzilla not just light Kong's flammable ass up with his nuclear fire? Because last I checked, gorillas are flammable. So I'm wondering how they get around that.
We'll see, man. We got to check out the film to know.
Yeah, that's going to be great. The first of what I'm sure is many delays have been announced. Morbius has been delayed to October 8th, and The Many Saints of Newark has been delayed to September 24th. Morbius, I'm not that confident in. I don't really trust Sony to handle Marvel property. Venom, I think, was a fluke. I'm not that big a Jared Leto fan either. I'll see Morbius, but I'm not freaking out about it.
Yeah, it's not really on my radar necessarily. I'm Jared Leto, it's fine. It's got some major misses, obviously. And it's not something that I'm going to be chomping at the bit to get.
Yeah, same. The Many Saints of Newark, however, I've been looking forward to that. They announced that like 5 years ago, and they've just been trying to make that happen. And I really hope it does happen. I mean, if anything's got to get an HBO Max release. I mean, the fucking Sopranos movie.
So when was the first time you watched The Sopranos? Because I know you've seen it more than once, right?
I've seen. All right, so I saw The Sopranos. The first watch I did was like right when I moved to Texas, so it had to have been like 2011, 2012.
Okay, so you're like 16, 17, yeah.
And then I rewatched the first 2.5 seasons when I was working at my old job. And then once I got back into, school and the podcast and everything, I kind of just put that aside, and I'm really only checking out new stuff. I'm not rewatching a lot of stuff these days.
Yeah.
But it's such a great show. I remember it. I remember most of it very well. I'm very much looking forward to seeing, Tony's dad's story and how this all kind of unfolded, how this family became the kings of Jersey. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, man. That show really has an argument for the stuff I've seen. I've seen not a ton of TV shows, but I've seen a decent amount, and it really might be the best one I've ever seen. and so anything to go back in that world is fine by me. And I've seen it just twice all the way through, and of course I've rewatched episodes here and there. But it was in the first time for me was in I watched The Wire and The Sopranos in the same year for the first time, 2015. I was on a like TV grind, you know. I had signed up for HBO Go, so I had it, every day I got off work and I would just start churning out these shows, and Sopranos and The Wire and 6 Feet Under were like the first three that I did. And it's first off, James Gandolfini, the guy is just like, whoa, lights out. Probably best TV character I've seen.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable. His screen time, and then the entertainment value, and then just his rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall. It's really like as intriguing as like The Godfather. It really is. It's crazy, the storytelling in that. I love that show so much, and it damn right it's going to be on HBO Max. So that's its home. That's where so many people have gone back and been able to watch it. People who weren't able to watch it when it was on, like us. In the early 2000s, we weren't able to catch up with it. So I really want that to come out, and I want to do an episode on it, man, because I would love to have an in-depth conversation about that world, and go up to the Northeast for a bit. That'd be fun.
For sure. I mean, The Sopranos is credited with turning TV into a whole new landscape and giving TV an opportunity to be a place where these stories, larger than life stories, could be told. It turned HBO into a valid network. And I think without The Sopranos, we never would have had, Breaking Bad. We never would have had all these amazing shows that exist in a world post Sopranos. So I'm grateful to that show just for that, but it was damn good television.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know, won't spoil anything, but like, of course, everybody knows about how like there's a controversial ending. I love it. I love it. Of course, I love things like that just stir up a huge debate. How else are you going to do it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to revisit that world again. I'll do kind of like I won't do a full rewatch, but I will do some significant episode, like a top 10 list or something like that, and get to a little bit more refresh. That'll be fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Next up, actress Jessica Campbell has died at 38 years old from an undisclosed reason. She was known mainly for playing the character of Tammy Meltzer in the 1999 dark comedy Election. And she didn't really do much else. And she just kind of dropped dead. They haven't really announced why yet, but this was odd. I bet it's COVID related.
Yeah, probably.
That's a shame. Rest in peace, Jessica Campbell. Next up, a little bit of Marvel news. Kevin Feige has confirmed that Deadpool 3 is going to be an MCU film, and it will be rated R. So they're not messing with Deadpool.
Good.
Yeah. And I'm sure Disney was like, we don't want to rock the Kevin Feige boat because that guy's given us like $30-40 billion in these films. Let's not piss him off. He gets to do whatever he wants. I guarantee you that's how that conversation went down.
Yeah, those guys have some leeway, have some say.
Yeah, thank God.
Well, like you said, when they bring that kind of profit, yeah.
Well, Feige has been such a great guy to helm this whole thing because he cares about the characters and he values like making something good. He focuses as much on the current film as he does on the film 10 years down the line. He's a great producer and a great like architect of this whole thing. And I'm just so glad that he's bringing Deadpool into this whole thing.
Hell yeah, man. It's just what's right for the fans. That's it.
Damn straight. Speaking of MCU, Chris Evans might be in talks to be returning as Captain America for one last ride. This might be debunked soon. Chris Evans came out on Twitter and said that this is news to him. But then again, these guys have to lie about this shit all the time. So who knows if this is true or not, but it was announced. I have mixed feelings. I thought Captain America's story ended really well. But at the same time, I would love to see, the story of him returning the stones or, some little cameo and I don't know. I trust that they're going to do things right.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now it's in good hands. Things are in good hands. And we're seeing that kind of across the board from Marvel.
Yes, indeed. Next up, random weird news. So Darren Aronofsky is developing his next film, an adaptation of the 2012 stage play The Whale, with Brendan Fraser attached to star as a severely obese teacher trying to reconnect with his estranged daughter. Whew. Okay, sure. I'm in.
Yeah. This is you're telling me the guy who, Requiem for a Dream and Mother, the guy who's had that run, Black Swan, and he's doing this with Brendan Fraser. Yeah, this is the kind of thing I don't need a trailer. I don't give a shit. I'm in. Sign me up. I read a little thing that it's supposed to be like 600 pounds.
Yeah,
so
severely.
I'm wondering, how this is all going to happen. So holy shit. Definitely a film, and that's going to be in the back of my mind until I see it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not that experienced with Aronofsky. I really liked Requiem for a Dream. I was not a fan of Mother, and I really didn't like Noah. So that's what I've seen so far.
Yeah. Noah's whatever. I love Mother. I think it's awesome. It's like by far my favorite Jennifer Lawrence performance. There's not a whole lot there for me in her career, but I do love what she's doing there, and that movie's just fucking bonkers. So you also got Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris doing just crazy shit. So yeah, that movie's wild. He's definitely an acquired taste, right? And I do really like Black Swan. Natalie Portman's pretty wonderful in that. But he is the kind of guy that I'm not like in love with his whole filmography or anything, but he's so damn committed to his, individuality and his style and just kind of being his own filmmaker that I'll kind of watch whatever, I put him, for me personally, I put him in the same boat as like, they're not anywhere near the same style filmmaker, but the way I see them is like Christopher Nolan. It's like Christopher Nolan's really trying to do something here. It's distinct. It's his style. So I'm down to see it. And that's kind of how I feel about Aronofsky. And there's just certain directors that even if I don't love everything, I know it's going to be a crafted movie and it's going to have some style, and they're going to bring their flavor to it. And I like that, I like creators that bring their pizzazz, I think that's really cool.
I think more than anything, I'm excited to see Brendan Fraser possibly mount a comeback.
That's the whole nother thing, right? To rejuvenate a career like that would be huge, and how awesome is it that, I know on our Film Guys and Mummy episode, of course, Mr. Fraser came up a lot, and you guys were kind of talking like you and Josh, and your prayers were answered.
It is weird. The timing of that was weird.
Yeah, like literally, the episode releases and we were kind of texting, and the Josh threw it in the group text with all of us and was like, Connor, holy shit. And it's Darren Aronofsky, like a crazy filmmaker who's going to do some wild stuff. And like, that's cool. Like what a wild pairing.
Hell yeah. I won't say I'm excited, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's probably exactly how I feel. I'm like, it's in the back of my mind, and I'm definitely going to sit down and watch it right when it comes out, but I'm not expecting to fall in love with it. Yeah. If
anything, I'm probably going to be pretty disgusted.
Probably gonna be like, what is happening here? Yeah.
Speaking of great pairings of actors and directors, Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem are in talks to play Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz in a biopic directed by Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
That's a great sentence. And I'm looking forward to that.
You don't need to say anything else. Yeah.
That's so great. I mean, Nicole Kidman and Javier as Lucille and Desi. Oh my God. Lucy and Desi. This is great. And
Sorkin.
God damn. Perfect.
Where do you think those two will sort of rank in the Sorkin speech? Because you got Tom Cruise, who's just a fucking killer at it. Jesse Eisenberg is a killer at it. Sacha Baron Cohen destroyed it. Um, Jack Nicholson, of course. I mean, do you think these two can get in that top tier?
Well, Javier, while on top of being smokier than London fog, that guy is an incredible actor and an incredible presence. And I have no doubt in my mind he's going to pull this off.
Yeah.
And Nicole Kidman, I'm not the biggest fan, but she's proved her talents with many different directors, and I think she can do it. I mean, the original, she's replacing Kate Blanchett, who ideally would have been my first choice for Lucy.
I understand, and I don't know if I have a preference between those two, but I really do love Nicole Kidman. I think she's like leveled up in some sense in recent years. I think she's ready to take on kind of some stranger stuff again, and I love that. I love that, man. I love that she, clearly in the 90s, early 2000s, I think she was going after some really cool stuff and really chasing it, and I love to see her do it again. So that's such a cool pair, and I see both of them kind of getting the cadence down with ease. I think they both have that. I think Nicole Kidman can just kind of be sitting on a couch and speak, extremely fast, 100 miles per hour, and I think it'll work.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big. I think it's going to make some waves. It's a story that they've been trying to do for quite a long time. Lucy's story, and they're Lucy and Desi were pioneers of American television. They changed the game. So I think it's going to be very cool. It's a cool story for Sorkin to tackle. So yeah, bring it on.
Well, yeah, Sorkin. This is when he's at his best for me. Is something like Social Network, or his script for his screenplay for Steve Jobs is like, good Lord, is pretty remarkable, Yeah. And that's because he's masterful at doing things that are interesting on some sort of surface level, and then he gives us a behind the scenes kind of look. And he's so damn good at that. The West Wing, the TV show, it's constantly that. It's constantly like these figures that we have ideas about, and they're, just, talking by the water, they're getting a little glass of water and they're talking and get a little coffee and they're just talking. And he's so good at doing the background stuff. Sorkin's so good at that. So for not only to bring, these, like you said, these people to light, make a movie with them, I can't wait to see the background stuff that he does with actors like Javier and Nicole. That's going to be so damn exciting.
Yes, it is. Can't wait. Ben Affleck is directing an adaptation of the young adult novel Keeper of the Lost Cities for Disney. Interesting waters for Ben Affleck to dip his directing toes in. He's going young adult. What do you think of that?
It's an interesting move, right? I think you're not too fond of it. Looked like young adult.
I'm not. I just if it's this dystopian shit, or if it's Disney trying to ruin another famous book series, after Kenneth Branagh's Artemis Fowl, I'm done with Disney and young adult book adaptations.
Yeah, I totally feel that. You kind of have to be proven wrong at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I love Affleck as a director, but I don't see him getting a lot of control over this.
Yeah, no. I don't see that he's going to actually be directing. It's more of a job. Yeah.
Yep. Damn shame. Emma Thompson has been cast as Miss Trunchbull in the upcoming Matilda remake. Interesting for that. Apparently, the role was traditionally played by a man on stage. It was Ralph Fiennes who was attached to this for the longest time. He dropped out, and Emma Thompson has replaced him. I don't think anyone can replace Pam Ferris as the Trunchbull, but Emma Thompson is somebody I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. I'm excited to see how this works out.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to use that whenever that decides to come out to kind of do some homework of my own on her career, because I don't know enough about it, right? I know there's some really cool stuff going on just like the past 25 years. So since Sense and Sensibility, I have some work to do. I have to go back and watch more of her stuff because I don't have a true opinion on her other than what I've read and some of the bigger stuff she's been in, and of course Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You kind of get connected to the actors that are in that stuff, but I have legwork to do.
As do I. I haven't really tackled a lot of her 90s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really love her as Professor Trelawney in Harry Potter. Thought she was hilarious in Love Actually. But overall, yeah, there's a lot of gaps. And I love getting to fill those gaps.
Yeah, and I think when a new film comes out, I personally love to just kind of dive into a couple of other past roles that they've done and, to get some perspective. It's fun.
Yes, indeed. This is maybe the coolest news I have. Apple TV. Yeah, this is crazy. Apple TV Plus has acquired Ridley Scott's upcoming biopic of Napoleon, starring Joaquin Phoenix. The current title is Kit Bag. So Joaquin is playing Napoleon for Ridley Scott. Ooh, what do you think?
Sign me up, I don't see two ways about this one. I mean, two legends, two titans. We've talked about some awesome people here, but is there anybody who's more, at the peak of their powers than Joaquin Phoenix in the acting game? That guy's got all the control in the world as far as performers that are going to engage people to watch, and the Academy and all these different things. Joaquin's the guy right now. So to pair him with a director like that, I'm in.
We've already seen what
I'm so in.
We've already seen what those two can do together with Gladiator. So
yeah, it's been 20 years, man. I'm ready.
Time for Joaquin to play another emperor for Ridley Scott.
Well, yeah, and that's a role that feels a lot like less is more with that character, right, in Gladiator, where the moments we get him, he's just this creepy, slimy bastard, and we're just always rooting for Russell Crowe in that movie. I'm excited to see him be the main guy with Ridley. That's cool. Kind of leveling up 20 years later.
I'm really excited to see what kind of take Ridley Scott does on Napoleon, because he's a very divisive historical figure. Some people think he's, the greatest ruler France has ever had. Some people equate him with Hitler in the way he tried to take over Europe. So it really is, depends on the historian what you think of Napoleon. So I'm excited to see the direction this movie takes.
Yeah, Napoleon is one of the, key figures out of Europe that, here in America, we just kind of hear about, but we don't actually, like you said, learn about the divisiveness of his philosophy as a person.
Yeah.
And I've heard people who say that he's their favorite, person ever realm, as far as being a leader and a general. And then, other people want to, slap him in the face. It's kind of like Patton. It's fucking weird.
It's interesting for sure. And weirdly, fresh off the heels of another podcast episode I did with Julie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where we talked a little bit about Napoleon. So it's weird how a lot of the news is kind of connecting with what we've been up to on the show lately. Neat. So that is all for Last Week in Film. Tune in next week to find out what happens next week. Before we get into One Night in Miami, I wanted to talk a little bit about the other film that came out this past week, The Marksman.
Yes.
The latest Liam Neeson action thriller came out January 15th in theaters. Does not yet have an IMDb score. It's settled, it's currently sitting at a wide release for January 21st, which is weird considering it moved up a week, but nobody got the message. I don't know. And it currently has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 37%. The audience score, though, is 87%. But honestly, I think people were just happy to see something. The Marksman. Well, if you've seen any Liam Neeson movie from the past 20 years, you've seen The Marksman. He's just got this formula that he has not left since Taken. And it's working for him, it's getting him paid. But it is making a lot of films that are pretty much just clones. And this is just, I call them Taken Plus. It's Taken plus it's in Arizona. It's Taken plus he's driving a snowplow. It's
Yeah.
it's just, you take Taken, you add some new shit, and it's a new movie.
Yeah. So you obviously saw this.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And where we're at?
I saw this at Santikos Embassy. It was me and a couple other people and an older couple who where the wife was just like viciously berating her husband.
Oh God.
Yeah, I was like, "You're such an idiot. Why are you like this? God, you're just a child." And he's just sitting there like, "Well, I guess." Like you can tell this it's been that for 40 years and he's just has no will to fight anymore. That stuck out to me.
Wow. Well, yeah, I obviously didn't see it, but I have a few questions. First off, Robert Benz, Jesus. Robert Lorenz is the director. This is a guy who's produced movies with Clint Eastwood. And
Yes.
so you already talked about how this has like a, very Liam Neeson feel. Does it also have any sort of, Clint Eastwood feel because they shared a lot of like Oscar nominations for Mystic River and I think Letters from Iwo Jima, and I know American Sniper he produced. So did it have any of that kind of feel, or was it just straight kind of like low B grade action?
It felt like the guy was trying to replicate Eastwood, but he wasn't quite there. For like Eastwood light almost. There was a little bit of that. I feel like it didn't go as far as Eastwood would have gone. I feel like if Eastwood had been here, this would have been something to talk about. Typically, when you put producers in the director's chair, just it does not work out. But I think Liam Neeson held this one together. The story's pretty generic. Actually, the trailer spoils the whole damn movie. Yeah, I hate when they do that too. I'm supposed to believe that Liam Neeson is a ex-Marine born and bred in Arizona. No, but just the way he says, like, adios, like he can't, it's completely nonsensical. And he goes up against like 4 cartel guys. Like there's no like big rush in the cartel. It's like one dude and it's taken care of pretty damn fast. Honestly, it was actually very anticlimactic, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you seen Trouble with the Curve from 2012?
I have not.
He directed that, and Clint Eastwood stars, and he's the main character. So
yeah,
I've seen that movie, and I think it's kind of shite. It's not really for me. It was just kind of boring. There's no style, nothing there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not really. I don't really need a whole lot of that. I'm down to try them out because you never know. If you do get kind of like a Clint Eastwood feel, because occasionally I'm down for a movie like that. But with Mr. Lorenz here, he's only directed these 2 movies. Been the main director. He's been assistant director on some other stuff, but I don't see any distinct style from him in either of these films. From what I hear from you about The Marksman, and then I've seen Trouble with the Curve, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that they just put behind the camera because they needed a name. There's no, like you said, there's no style here. It's a Liam Neeson movie above all else, and it really does just fit a formula. At the heart of it, you've got this guy bonding with this young boy, but even that's kind of just dispatched with near the end pretty quickly. You never feel like the stakes are all that high. Like it'd be very easy to get out of this. And I don't know. I feel like they ignored a lot of potential directions this could have gone in that would have been really like unique and would have stood out. But yeah, I'd say even went like among Neeson's other, action thrillers where he's a cop or a soldier who's estranged from his wife and then ends up in some criminal trouble with like bad guys, cartel guys, or some shit. Even among that group, this is probably one of the weaker ones.
Yeah. That's sometimes shit happens. You gotta see it to know. So
yeah, and I'm
glad you got to see old Liam Neeson in a cowboy hat on the big screen. So that's fun. At least you got that.
Yeah, at least I got that. So of these bunch, like I've seen the first Taken, I've seen Run All Night, which is the exact same plot as Road to Perdition. It even ends in a fucking cabin in the woods at a lake house. It's the same movie. A Walk Among the Tombstones, which was interesting. It was about like a serial killer. Nonstop, which was he's a marshal on a plane and there's a terrorist on the plane. And I don't count The Gray in that bunch because that was actually something different. But
that one's much different in tone than these other ones.
Exactly. So I think those are the ones I've seen. I didn't see Cold Pursuit because I'm like, really? He's in a snowplow and he's taking revenge on like the cartel. Are you kidding me? So
yeah. That's what the man's been doing. I love him in Silence, like, and Martin Scorsese's Silent. I thought he was fantastic in that, but there's just a couple in this past decade that stand out. I'd say that one in The Gray. Of course, you look back further and he's got some really, really cool stuff, but I just don't, past 10 years, I just don't, it's not that rewarding,
He's a great actor. He just, needs the money. I don't know what kind of lifestyle he's financing, but he really needs money apparently above all else. And,
I think he's had his issues with maybe some people not wanting to cast him here and there. I think he's ruffled some feathers here and there. He was in Widows. That was a pretty cool performance with Steve McQueen. It's not a huge performance, but he's he's an important character. I think I don't know. I think some people are hesitant on casting him these days in his career where he's at now. I don't know. He is pretty damn talented, the guy, and he's an icon of some eras. Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what the latter part of his career is.
I mean, I understand, some people are apprehensive after, the remarks he said like years ago about wanting to just attack any black person he saw because his friend got attacked by a black person. That's fucked up. But I honestly don't believe he has any hatred in his heart. I think he was just, ruffled badly. He was angry. He wasn't thinking. I don't think he's a bad person. And I think that we need to let people have a chance to explain themselves and, redeem themselves. We talked about that last week with, Pieces of a Woman. I think people deserve, the benefit of the doubt sometimes. And to have his whole career be, kind of closed off and him kind of forced to take these roles just because, he said that shit, I don't think that's fair. It's what I think.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you, and we don't totally know is the main point, right? We don't know, and we're never gonna really know. So what you can do is just try to enjoy the art, and what's good about Liam is he has a really, really cool, past filmography. So
true.
The guy's been able to put in a lot of work, and if you like him, there's always things to watch. Whatever is true and isn't true, we don't quite know. And yeah, I hope you're right, man. I hope he's genuinely got a good heart and is a kind soul.
He seemed like it.
He does. He does.
He was on a talk show recently where he pulled out some a prop. He still had Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber from the Phantom Menace, and he said that he really wants to be on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that Disney's doing. So there might be a chance Liam Neeson might get to pop up as Qui-Gon Jinn's ghost, which would be just fantastic. So I'm holding out hope for that.
That'd be huge for him. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, The Marksman, I give it a 7. I liked his performance. I like the bit with him and the boy, but everything else is pretty by the numbers and predictable.
Yeah. I'll probably watch it at some point whenever it hits a streaming service. I tend to just throw movies like this on late at night.
Yeah.
If I can't sleep or, and you just could throw on a nice hour and a half to 2 hour action movie. And that's what that is. So
pretty much. It's crazy how similar these movies are. I swear to God, they're just, changing the characters and the setting on the script, but keeping everything else exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that's enough on the Marksman. It was never gonna fill out one of these episodes anyway. Let's be honest. And we need something with some meat to talk about on this show, and then we've got something good. One Night in Miami.
Oh yeah,
yeah, very cool. It's based on the 2013 stage play by Kemp Powers, who also wrote the screenplay. It was a 90-minute kind of one-act play, and depicts a fictional account of a real night, February 25th, 1964, where civil rights leaders Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown all met at the same motel to talk about their roles in the ongoing civil rights movement and what their lives are doing to kind of influence that. Powers also co-wrote Pixar's Soul, which came out last month on Disney Plus. He's already got 2 incredible films under his belt. Cannot wait to see what he does next. The guy's a hell of a
yeah. Yeah, no kidding. This guy's got talent oozing out of him clearly, and has figured out a way to insert himself right into the movie world. And I'm very grateful. And Miss Regina King, it's cool to see her level up yet again.
Yeah.
She does not stop. She doesn't stop for anybody. She keeps moving. And I'm eternally grateful for her career and her contribution to movies and TV and just like my life. I love Regina King so much, and to see that this film was good, I think there's some interesting things to talk about, but she has an eye. Like Regina King has an eye, and it makes sense with all this work she's done that she's ready to go into this role to be the director. And I think she's got a serious talent, and I can't wait to see what she does next already. But I'm excited to talk about this film today, her directorial debut. So cool.
Yeah, this is the directorial debut of Oscar-winning character actress Regina King, who we talked about at length in our 28th episode of Oscar Sunday, which was focused on 2018's If Beale Street Could Talk. So tell us a bit about, Regina King and why, her acting career and why you love her so much.
Yeah, we got to talk a lot about her, and on that episode, I kind of just handpicked that film, even though we already did 2018's Black Panther previously. We're trying to cover all different kinds of ceremonies and years on Oscar Sunday, and I just said fuck it and loop back around, because we kind of changed the sort of changed the format of Oscar Sunday at one point, and we're kind of carrying with that now, where we pick a film and we're trying to pick something within that film that's really interesting for both of us, that's like kind of a focal point. And we're going to pick, a female performer that's, won an Oscar at some point, and we want to center an episode around, a movie that person's been in, that person won the award for. We've texted back and forth a shit ton, and I was like, we're going to choose a black woman here. That's what we're going to do. And we talked about it for a long time, and I just went with my gut, because Regina King's performance and If Beale Street Could Talk as Sharon Rivers is my favorite of all of those. I'm like very connected to that movie, that book by James Baldwin. And so when Regina King was in that and just kind of just crushed it, like knocked it out of the park, everyone knocks out of the park in that movie. And she's just so goddamn professional. And then, I go back to my, earlier years of, watching movies and like middle school, high school. And I was really into, still am really into, Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, Friday, Regina King's in all of those. And so she just kind of in my life in that way, because I love watching those movies in, middle school and high school, and I still love watching them. And she stands out in all of them, whether it's a, bigger role or supporting role. When she's there, and she's fucking hilarious, and she carries herself in a way that I can't look away from. I love her so much. She's definitely one of my favorite actresses of all time. And I I really was like, I was like put into tears a few moments because I was like, holy shit, she's like crafted a few really cool scenes here. And I thought there were a few things that I was like, all right, I see where she can like get better as a director, but for the most part, I was just like really proud as a fan of hers. Just really proud of what she's able to do and tell the story of these four gentlemen that are so, so, so important to American history. And a very performance driven movie.
Yeah.
Of course, from Regina. uh, that makes sense that someone who's just a powerhouse performer like her, is directing this movie with all four guys just kind of knock it out of the park for me personally. So yeah, man, I could talk about Regina all day, and there's a reason we did that episode. And I love If Beale Street Could Talk, but I really, really love Regina King, and yeah, I think she's gonna have a future in this. Of course, she's gonna keep acting. She's gonna keep doing, producing, doing this and that, working in TV and Watchmen on HBO, and she's everywhere. And I can't wait to see what she does next.
Yeah, this film really showed her versatility. I was very impressed with her directing eye on this movie. I think it's even more fascinating that this is a movie really based on a story that may not have even happened. It's entirely speculation on, yes, these four men were at this motel in February of 64, but we don't know what they talked about. And this idea is really smart. And I'd love to see more films like this of like what might have happened in history. I think that's a great kind of biopic subplot or a biopic subgenre they could do. And I'd like to see more in this vein because I was very impressed with this film.
Yeah, it's kind of like fictional, nonfiction, just kind of taking something that is very authentic and very real and allowing yourself to have a realistic imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
With some with you can't do this with everybody, and not everybody can do this. Kemp Powers and Regina King. These are two people who you totally trust to tell this kind of a story. And with these four gentlemen, we know what they sound like. We know what they look like. We know what their philosophy is. We know what their ideologies are. So I think it's okay to play with those in a conversation that might have happened or could have happened or whatever it may be. They could have just drank beer all night. Could have not said shit. They could have just talked about whatever. They could have watched a movie. Who knows? But I think you're allowed to, in certain regards. I don't think you and I should write this movie, but I think there are some people who are in a spot, are in a place in their life, have the experience, have the historical knowledge, the writing ability, the respect for film that Regina King and Kemp Powers have to pull something like this off. Because this could, in the wrong hands, this could be a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
This could be a fucking disaster. I truly believe that. I think there's some very powerful things said in this movie that even you and I don't really have a say on. We don't really have a, foundational opinion on some of the stuff because it's not our conversation, quite frankly. We're obviously allowed to watch it here and speculate, but I really think this movie is so specially crafted. It had to be these kinds of ideas and these people behind these ideas to push it forward and for it to make sense and for it to be the product it is. We know what Malcolm X sounded like and all that, like I said, and Regina and Kemp were like, hey, let's go with this. Let's go with, this is probably what he would be saying if this happened, and go off of that kind of play off it. And then they're up on the roof and then they're down back. And, it was kind of beautiful how it just kind of organically happened. And I wasn't, for one second, I wasn't like, oh, did this really happen? I was just kind of allowing these guys to just kind of sink into me.
Yeah.
And it just kind of enlightened me, to be honest with you. So I was very grateful for the experience, and I'm very curious to hear what you think about it as far as those ideas go. With obviously you've heard plenty of what Malcolm X stands for, and Muhammad Ali is a guy you can't escape. And Sam Cooke has one of the best voices probably, ever. And Jim Brown was the best football player to live at the time when he retired. So, you know what these guys kind of are. So you just, do you think that's a good idea to just kind of, let's take these guys' ideologies and make a conversation out of it?
Well, like you said, it does depend on who's telling the story. It depends on somebody who actually cares about the outcome, cares about the people. Like this could have been Malcolm X Vampire Hunter, but is not. It's a story that I believe could have happened. And it is all about, you have to, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Well, it does matter who's telling the story. And I love that Kemp Powers cared enough to make a play out of this idea. And, me being a student of history, I am, curious. And I like learning about these things. I like learning about new things about American history, particularly because I think we have a very fascinating, rich, versatile history that's built on a lot of suffering. And I like how this film doesn't shy from that. These are four larger than life historical figures from the 20th century. And all of them are incredibly vulnerable in this movie. We get to see sides of these people that, like, historically we did not get to see. We get to see Malcolm X kind of fall apart in this movie. It really is remarkable, but also maintain a strength that he always had. We get to see Muhammad Ali be afraid of changing his life, of being a Muslim, have second thoughts about that. We get to see Sam Cooke, reconsider his position in the music industry. And then Jim Brown kind of just, be uncertain about his future. I love seeing historical figures be human. And this film is so good at doing that. So good at making these people look like people instead of just names in a textbook. And yeah, that was what I love most about this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I definitely want to, shout it out just right from the very beginning of the film. I personally thought the intros were pretty cool. Whether they were kind of just kind of forward or not, or abrupt, I thought they were powerful, and I thought in particular, I'll go ahead and say it. My favorite performance is Aldous Hodge in this movie.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's an uncommon thing to think, but I think people should rewatch it maybe or something, and maybe rewatch the beginning, because his scene with Beau Bridges at the beginning of the film is brutality, and it shows an ability and an awareness to set the tone right away. That sure we're dealing with these guys or whatever, but like, we're in a time that's very, 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 very dangerous.
Yeah.
And of course, him going back down to the South, it just kind of changes his perspective on things. And I thought that was just a really, really brutal scene. And I was just kind of taken aback by that. And I thought from there on out, I thought Aldous Hodge had this. He captured this the human thing that you said about these guys. He had this kind of confusion from there on out, just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
What is going on? And I thought he was really, really, really good at being the figure in the room that when someone or two characters were maybe being a little frantic, and kind of arguing or up on their feet, kind of moving around, Aldous Hodge has this presence, and then of course Jim Brown has this presence that just kind of like hones you in. And I felt when I was watching this movie, whenever I felt maybe a little stressed out, and I was like, oh man, this is getting meaty, I would look at him. I would look at Aldous Hodge, and I'd be like, whoa, and it's kind of like, it was bizarre. It was this bizarre connection that I had, and I immediately fell in love with what he was doing. And I think that goes back to the very beginning of the film with that scene with Beau Bridges. And I think all four of the kind of introductions we get, how we're kind of leading into this moment, this night where, you know, Cassius Clay is going to be fighting Liston for the title. And I'm not in love with the boxing action, but I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. I thought some of the shots were really cool. And of course, some of the actors that pop up there. We talked about the Sopranos and The Wire earlier. Both those guys in Cassius Clay's corner, crazy.
Fantastic. As long as we're throwing it out there, my favorite performance was Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X.
He's the guy who's going to be up for an Oscar, if anybody.
I think so for sure. I mean, I love Aldous Hodge, Jim Brown especially. Jim Brown, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, plays one of my all-time favorite characters in film history, and that's Byron Williams in Mars Attacks. So I've loved Jim Brown my whole fucking life.
Because of movies, yeah.
Because of that. And then, you know, I watched The Dirty Dozen and I'm like, shit, that's Byron. It's just, so it was cool for me to kind of see a little bit about, you know, who Jim Brown was during the civil rights movement and his significance and all that. I didn't know any of that. To me, he was just the badass from Mars Attacks. So to get to learn about more about him was really cool.
I love that.
Yeah. I love Malcolm X in this film. Because, you know, I just a few months ago, I had watched for the first time Spike Lee's 1992 Malcolm X with Denzel.
Oof.
And yeah, so that was a 3-hour plus look into Malcolm X's life and his significance to the civil rights movement. In this film, we get to see Malcolm as he's about to leave the Nation of Islam and is really concerned about his family's future and his own future. And I loved seeing that side of such a larger than life, you know, somewhat militant, powerful figure. To get to see him on the edge of losing everything was a little rattling. And I thought he did an amazing job maintaining that man's incredible strength, but also not being afraid to wear his heart on his sleeve at the same time. So yeah, I really loved that performance.
Yeah, it's pretty special. He right away kind of captures you as he is introduced as he's like in clearly a dangerous moment and rushes home and gets home and his wife is there to greet him, and you know, he's like, oh, the girl's up. No, they're in bed, you know. We see Malcolm X at home, you know. We see an established Malcolm X, you know. The film by Spike Lee, like you said, it spans over his life, and it's this huge project and just a wonderful, wonderful movie. But this, you know, performance here is totally special, totally unique, and in its own kind of realm. It's not something that is copied at all from Denzel's performance. It's not a copy at all. It's just like, this guy is here to stay. And I think he's going to be up for Best Actor. I really do. I thought he was the standout for sure and got the best stuff. He got the best stuff to say. He's the guy who's throwing out just fucking daggers at his friends. Yeah. He's fucking lighting up the room. And he's, you know, like you said, he's dedicated to that kind of that discipline, that seriousness, and, you know, brother Cash, you know,
yeah,
brother Sam, yeah, brother Jim, yeah, brother James, brother Rakeem, you know, brother Kareem, all this different, you know, and he's doing it and his shirt's tucked in and his glasses stay on. He only takes them off when he's really, really serious, you know, and he's just locked in. And this guy is screaming like, hey, I'm here. I'm here to stay. And I can play this guy. But then if you look at pictures of him on his IMDb, yeah, I feel like this guy could play anybody.
Yeah. And a big thing that surprised me is he's a Brit.
Yep. Exactly. I think, you know, Daniel Kaluuya, these guys come on over and they play Americans really well. Idris Elba. I love when that happens, and I love finding out later on afterwards, because you're like, oh, didn't even matter, because he totally pulled it off.
It's just so remarkable how much better Brits are at playing Americans than Americans are at playing British people. It's fucking horrific. They are so bad at it.
That's for sure. I definitely agree with that. I don't think that's even like a sort of a thing just because we live here. I think that's just true. I think over time, I think it's just been proven to be fact.
So let's talk a bit about these guys' careers. Kingsley Ben-Adir has also appeared in such films as King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, The Commuter, Noel, Trespass Against Us, and he played Colonel Ben Younger on Peaky Blinders. He's certainly got a promising future ahead of him.
Yes.
Eli Gorey plays Cassius Clay, the champion boxer who would later change his name to Muhammad Ali. Gorey played Mad Dog on Riverdale, but has also appeared in such films as Race and Godzilla. And out of these four guys, he's the one with the smallest IMDb page. He's the biggest up and comer here. And yeah, I thought he was great as Ali. Like, well done.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. He's the youngest, so it makes sense that actor would be the youngest and had the least to show for. And I thought he could really hang. There are a couple times where the cadence, the what he was doing with the voice just kind of like went away for a minute.
Yeah,
but for the most part, he was pretty zoned in, man. I bought it.
Well, Ali, is such a larger than life character, and he speaks like a Dr. Seuss character. He's always like doing some time, or he's almost like speak singing in everything he says. So I get that it would be difficult to kind of nail that down. And for the most part, I think he does a really admirable job, but I agree there are a couple times where it cracks.
Yeah, where he just kind of drags. Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's the guy's normal voice. Yeah.
Aldous Hodge plays football star turned movie star Jim Brown. Hodge is another versatile character actor who has appeared in such films as Die Hard with a Vengeance, Straight Outta Compton, Hidden Figures, Brian Banks, and most recently, The Invisible Man. And he's a guy to watch out for. He's going to be big stuff. I mean, he's already, got considerable stock, but he keeps getting more roles like this. I see, awards in his future.
I agree. I think he's a dark horse kind of guy who you look out, because like you said, if he gets the right one, the exact right role, I think he's ready. I think he's ready to take some stuff on. I really like Aldous Hodge. The Invisible Man is a movie that I feel like that plot line wasn't super necessary, but I loved him, so it didn't matter. I thought he was great, so didn't totally matter. And he was like really good with Elizabeth Moss, and that's a good sign when this guy clearly can work with people well. So I'm excited for him.
Yes, indeed. So am I. Leslie Odom Jr. plays Sam Cooke, the celebrated singer-songwriter whose career was tragically cut short in December 1964. Just learned about that story. What a sad fucking turn of events that was. Jesus. Look up Sam Cooke's untimely death, and it's the saddest shit you'll read in ever. Ugh. Odom Jr. is known mostly for his role as Aaron Burr in the immensely popular musical Hamilton. He's also appeared in such films as Murder on the Orient Express, Red Tails, Harriet, and he is set to appear in the upcoming Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark.
Beautiful.
Cannot get away from that movie.
No, I can't get away from HBO and that whole world. Yeah. That's funny.
One Night in Miami currently has an IMDb score of 7.2, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 98%. It's an Amazon original, so that's where you'll always be able to watch this thing. Sam Cooke is probably the guy of this bunch that I knew the least about. I knew the song, A Change Is Gonna Come, but that's really it. I didn't know anything about Sam Cooke. And I feel like after watching this movie, I know more, but still not as much as I thought I was going to find out. I don't know how much of his story is, fact or fiction. Did he really play Tacopa to a sea of white faces and get basically just demoralized off stage.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know much about him at all. That is not really my bag when it comes to like listening to old music. Like that era,
Mhm.
I'm like much more of a jazz man myself, so I'm definitely more like keen on like late 50s, like Charles Mingus,
Yeah.
and John Coltrane, Blue Train, shit like that, like late that shit in the late 50s. So I don't really like you said, I know a few tracks, but I definitely would like to see a film about this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he clearly exudes just like these kind of philosophical questions about life with every step he takes, and whether he knows it or not. I love characters like that. I love figures like that. I love people like that at some point have to kind of reckon with the path that they've chosen. And they clearly were hitting on that a little bit in this movie.
Yeah.
But I wanted more. I wanted more Sam Cooke. I wanted more of that story. I wanted more when, I'm sure we're going to talk about like later on in the movie, but when they have that flashback to Boston, I wanted more scenes like that. And I wouldn't even be opposed to, I'm not a big TV guy, but I wouldn't even be opposed to like a Sam Cooke Netflix show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch the shit out of that, and or on Amazon, Regina King can direct. And I think you're not alone. That I think most people know a lot about Malcolm X. Most people know a lot about Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. A lot of people know that Jim Brown was like at one point the best football player. But Sam Cooke, a lot of people just know a couple songs, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is. I don't feel like I hear these conversations about him, and that goes hand in hand with the movie, with the plot, with how his character kind of gets isolated with, at points. And I found that to be so fascinating, right? Because it is the guy that you and I are kind of wondering about, and he's the one who's being questioned. It's like, oh, that makes so much sense because Malcolm X is wondering about him too. I want more. I want more Sam Cooke content. That's definitely something I came out of this. Like, I remember the next day when I woke up, I was kind of showering and I was kind of singing one of his songs, just kind of like from the film. And I was like, just fucking make a Sam Cooke movie, make a sequel. Let's go.
I didn't realize how significant he was to
the
civil rights movement. Sam Cooke was just, a name I knew. I didn't know anything about the guy. But, now that I've seen this movie, I did, I looked into it. I found out about how he was murdered. And God, Jim Brown's the only one of these 4 still alive.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad.
I wonder what like he thinks about, a movie like this coming out,
I'd love to know what Jim Brown thought of this.
Yeah, I'd love to sit down with Jim Brown. First time I ever heard about Jim Brown, I was like 7 or 8. And it was because, I had to be. It was 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. And because LeBron James, that's when he was a senior in high school. So, his games were on TV all the time, whatnot. And when he was a junior and senior in high school. And so he got in trouble one time LeBron did for like, he bought jerseys, and one of them was he bought jerseys, and a lot of stuff happened. I don't want to say that I know exactly what happened. There's some financial stuff involved, and he had to stop playing some games for a minute because he had accepted some gifts or something, and there were some jerseys, and one of them was a Jim Brown jersey. Well, LeBron James played high school basketball in Akron, Ohio. Jim Brown played for the Cleveland Browns, not too far from Akron. So it's like, wouldn't think much of it, but he got in huge trouble for wearing that jersey out in public. So when I saw that picture of him wearing the Jim Brown jersey, it was like, oh, here's LeBron. I was like, well, who's that? If LeBron thinks he's cool, then I gotta, then I need to know he's cool. So since I was about, 7 or 8, I've been a Jim Brown fan because of LeBron. I love that.
Dude's 84 now, and obviously
Oof.
retired, but he still does, tours conventions, mostly, football conventions, not Comic-Con.
Nah, not getting to a whole lot of Tim Burton stuff.
First time I saw Jim Brown was in a King Tut costume, and then he ripped it off, walked, into a field of Martians to let Tom Jones escape, and he beat the living fuck out of the Martian ambassador. And it's one of my all-time favorite movie moments, where he's the heavyweight champion of the world, sacrificing himself to fuck up some Martians and save Tom Jones and his friends.
I love it.
I love how we have such different relationships with Jim Brown,
Yeah, that's perfect.
but we still both love him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
It's fantastic. Oh boy. So let's talk a bit about this film in general. Just some stuff that stood out.
Yeah, let's take it from the top because we kind of teased the intros and stuff. I've already talked a bit about that, so we can just kind of go through. What did you think about the transition from all of that? Kind of fast action intros. They show the fight. They show Cassius Clay fighting, and he starts screaming and hollering. What did you think about that transition from there to them actually at the motel, actually hanging out?
I thought it was perfect. I thought we if you had never heard of these people, you knew right there exactly who you're dealing with. You knew what Malcolm was about, what Cassius was about, Jim and Sam. You knew everything you needed to know for this movie. Granted, if you knew who they were already, you have a lot more to enjoy about this film, a lot more is significant to you. But I like that it kind of plays to all comers. Yeah, I thought especially Sam Cooke's intro was just a fucking mess. And
Yeah,
just from already, they don't even want him there, to him talking to the crowd and nobody's paying attention to him because he's a black guy. And they won't let him bring his guitarist up. He's knocking over the mic stand. And this is one of the most celebrated singers in American history. And this is what he had to deal with. It's fucking depressing. And then, of course, Jim Brown with like the man who's like his family's been like back and forthing like for years. It's such a good scene. It's so kind-hearted, and you're like, oh, they're friends. And like at first I'm like, how are they friends? Like knowing historically that in the 60s it was weird for a black man and an older white gentleman to even be in the same room together in Georgia. So I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then it did, and it was just like, fuck. What a devastating way to end that scene. Of just like, oh my God. The way that's the casual, like nice way he says it. Like, don't you know? We don't do that. Like,
yeah,
fuck.
it's brutal.
And it sets up,
Brutal.
Jim Brown's whole thing later of like, I hate the nice white people who look down on me more than I hate the rednecks. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, ugh.
Well, yeah, for sure. I would rather, if I were in any situation where there's people who hate me, I would rather know that you don't like me, fine. But I would rather that than someone act like they like me, just using me, whatever it is. And yeah, that's got to be fucking demoralizing, and it's manipulative, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, one of the worst feelings is people, playing nice to your face, but in real life, thinking you're worthless compared to me. And I can't imagine what that feels like. This movie really does, it strikes nerves, as it should. God. But also there's times where it's like really, really funny. Like
extremely.
These four guys have such amazing chemistry. Like when Jim Brown and Cassius are in the room and Cassius is like bouncing in some weird ass way. Jim Brown's just like, what are you, a giant fucking baby? He's just looking at it like, what the hell is he doing? Little stuff like that. There's so many great lines.
I love all that stuff. I love that's Aldous Hodge kind of at his best right there comedically. He's just he just looks at people like they're like so funny.
It's awesome, I mean, of all these guys, Cassius is such a weirdo because, just to consider yourself like, I'm the greatest of all time. He just became the heavyweight champ. he's got all these weird rules and these weird rituals, and then Jim Brown's just football player doing his best. Like he knows he's not in the same like mindset as the rest of these guys. He's just like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you? I love that. I love that he's just looking. He's almost on the outside looking in the whole time.
Yeah, at times for sure. I think he's definitely just kind of taking it in, just trying to see what the hell's going on with these dudes. It's definitely an eccentric group, a pretty wild group. It's fun.
A couple other lines I really liked were, I don't remember who said this, but it was, "Why don't you be like Bing Crosby and accentuate the motherfucking positive?"
So good.
That was fantastic. And then two that I really liked, not for comedic value, but for like, cultural significance. Everybody talks about wanting a piece of the pie. I want the goddamn recipe.
Yeah.
That was great. Loved that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because this movie is, as it is awesome. It is quite simple, right? And, a lot of it is in one room, and because like you said, it is a play, so it definitely has that feel. And like what you just brought up, that bit from Sam Cooke, it comes from, Malcolm X challenging him.
Yeah.
And really, really digging into him. So, as they move up to the roof, when they're just kind of hanging out and they see some fireworks, and Malcolm has the camera, and they're just kind of making fun of it, and it almost breaks, and he's like, "You idiots,"
I love when he breaks. Malcolm X is no longer Malcolm X. He's like, "Don't break my goddamn camera." Like, it just turns into that.
Man, I love stuff like that. Yeah, it's just like, get the fuck off. This thing's expensive. My wife bought it for me, you bastards. Betty bought it. Fuck off. And that's really great to see. But once all these gentlemen are, they're hanging out in the motel, and they move to the roof, and as they start kind of arguing and bickering, and it's definitely between Malcolm and Sam. Clearly there's something between them two that's a little bit deeper, and they go back into the room, the motel room, and that's when you have the stuff that you brought up, that line you brought up. And I thought the acting from Kingsley when he plays Bob Dylan was like almost scary, like, because there was one point where he did this thing that Malcolm X, seems like he does sometimes when he's speaking. He's like his upper lip like tucks under, and all you can see is his teeth, and it's almost scary because he's so into what he's saying to you, and he's looking in your eye, and he's like, listening to these lyrics, and he's like, ha ha ha, almost like the Joker, like, ha ha, did you hear that? Like, as a matter of fact. And I thought that was a special moment for him as an actor, but then it was this extremely divisive moment in the movie where I was like, uh-oh. It got to a point where I was like, this is getting to a conversation where I all I can do is observe. I have no say here, but I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to digest it, because I think these kinds of things are really important for people like you and I, Connor, to look at, to see this perspective. And I thought those moments when Malcolm's being really challenging, and then Sam's throwing it back at him, I thought that was undoubtedly the most powerful stuff in the movie. It's on purpose. It's the most powerful stuff. And they just, neither of them really back down, and until something, major happens, or until, Cassius really steps in. But man, I was just kind of blown away by that moment, that transition from them snapping at each other to Malcolm throwing on the Dylan record. And it just kind of, blew me away. Like, this is a white boy from Minnesota though, isn't it? Just the knowledge he has of what he's speaking about, and the knowledge Malcolm X has of white people.
Yeah.
is astonishing, because he knows his enemy better than the enemy knows themselves. And that really showed right there, because this is a guy who like hates white people, spoke about it a lot, and they talk about it in the movie. They bring it up, they make that a thing that can be a conversation, where they're like, dude, you literally hate white people no matter what. Sam Cooke's like, lighten up, bro. Like, you hate everybody who has white skin. You think they're all like devils. And he's like, no, no, no. They bring that up, and that stuff is super divisive and super fascinating. And I'm very keen on hearing multiple conversations about it. But I'm like, I don't even know, I would have nothing to say. I realize how I don't understand these things. I hear them, but I cannot put myself in these shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it makes watching this movie that much better of an experience for me personally, because I accepted that. I was like, I don't need to totally wrap my mind around this. I need to just let this hit me. And I did. And those moments were really powerful, man. Very divisive. And I think they're going to create conversations for a long time. I think movies like this, as they get reevaluated, and I think as you rewatch them, I think those are big moments, big moments.
Well, I let movies like this kind of fill in the gaps for me of stories I don't know, of stories I can't relate to. I get to see what the filmmakers bring to the table on this. And I trust Regina King and Kent Powers to tell this story, to tell a story like this. And, just like I trusted Spike Lee to tell Malcolm's story with that 1992 movie, because I don't know, and I don't pretend to know, and I don't pretend to know what it feels like to be a Black person in the United States. And this is what I get to, with these films, I get to witness as best I can what it's like. And that's all I can ask.
Yeah. Yeah. To hear and watch and process, digest Black stories created by Black people is so essential to, of course, the Black community, but it's very essential to us, man, to white Americans that have created this toxic environment. It's up to us to do this homework, watch this stuff. Like you said, learn, enlighten yourself. And I think when you do that and you kind of sit back and observe it and allow it to be this perspective and not something that you have to understand every little thing, because it is gray. It is tough. Just like these guys who are buddies, they're just arguing, debating, and talking about what they think about life. And that's what we all do, right? You're watching with these guys that really, really, really matter to American history. And that's cool. That's really cool.
It is very cool. It is extremely cool. And the ending is so well crafted of, Sam Cooke unveiling his new song he's been working on the Carson show and introducing a change is going to come to the world, and then getting to, have that montage of where everybody is now with that song, and Malcolm watching it on TV and having that little smile of like, I knew you could do it. I thought that was very rewarding.
Oh, of course. And I thought that tacked on to the most rewarding scene for me was when Cash chases down Sam, because Sam, of course, leaves for a second after him and Malcolm are really heated. Finally, they're all four back. And that shot of all four of them on the two hotel beds. You have two gentlemen on one bed and two gentlemen on the other. And they're like really close, like in a huddle almost. And that's when Malcolm decides to kind of use his knowledge and calmness in that moment to just kind of reflect and tell a story. And I thought it was another really, really good piece of acting from him when he tells the story of what happened in Boston. And one of the coolest moments though is when Sam Cooke's like, "You've seen me play?" And he's like, 5 times. He puts up his hand, and I thought all that stuff was spot on and looked like Malcolm and felt like Malcolm. I thought Kingsley really nailed those moments. And then when he when he really reflects and tells the story and has some patience there when he's telling what happened in Boston and how the power, he had no power and he had to kind of do some stuff a cappella and people started clapping and stomping their feet. And that was a really cool moment. And really another huge moment for Kingsley as an actor, as he just kind of narrates this moment and he's reflecting. It's a little flashback to the past. And I thought that was so special. And then you have Sam Cooke actually doing the song after that really nice shot of Aldous Hodge asking, as Jim Brown asking, let me hear it. And he never says it until the end of the movie. He actually plays it. Now that's awesome. That's good directing. Yeah. That's really good. That's really good filmmaking. So I loved all that. I thought the last 15 minutes were rewarding, but never felt like gimmicky.
Yeah, I agree. It never felt unearned or gratuitous, which is impressive for a film that's based entirely off a what if scenario. I thought it was hilarious how the Boston flashback made Jackie Wilson look like an enormous prick.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Just a petty asshole. I thought that was funny. And then the scene where Jim Brown retires from football on the set of The Dirty Dozen. I thought that was really cool. Like I was like the tank and the costume. That's The Dirty Dozen.
That was funny.
I remember reading in the trivia when he did that. Like he was told, you either quit the movie or we're fining you. And he's like, well, fuck it. I'm out. I want to act. That was huge. That was enormous. Like that was, could have just completely destroyed any hope of any kind of career he had. But he fucking killed it in The Dirty Dozen and was able to have a movie career. Wonderful.
So cool. Gotta love that. I'm really into Jim Brown. I think I might have to get myself a jersey of him one day.
Well, fuck it. Me too.
That would be hilarious. We both just become Cleveland Brown fans. Yeah, Jim Brown, man. Fuck it.
Yeah, I have no football interest whatsoever, but I will wear a Jim Brown jersey.
Yeah, same. Same. I would also wear a Paul Crewe jersey, like Adam Sandler's character from The Longest Yard. So if anybody wants to send a link, I'm right here.
Oh, that's great. That is great. I give One Night in Miami an 8. Yeah, it's a fantastic drama. Tells a fascinating glimpse into an historical event that could have happened.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I'm definitely going to rewatch this one. I also give it an 8. I think it could rise or it could just hang right there. We'll see. I think we got something to really look at with multiple people here. And that's the main thing that we've seen here as we're talking about Regina becoming a new director. Kemp Powers is obviously on the scene now with Soul and this film. And then this, crew of actors. These guys are going to be here. They're going to be around, and I'm excited for everybody involved. Definitely a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that, any final thoughts on One Night in Miami?
No, man. No, if you listen this far, I assume you watched it. If not, Amazon Prime, baby.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is, our third episode of the sneak preview. I think the show is going swimmingly, and we love doing it, getting to investigate, what's happening in film right now. It's really cool.
Yeah. Super, super fun. Next week is going to be a blast. Just like the week after that, we're going to keep this thing rolling. Sneak preview is tagging along with Filmgasm and Oscar Sunday, and we're going to keep this train rolling.
Yes, indeed. This week on Wednesday on the Filmgasm podcast, we're doing a fan-requested film, 1988's The Beast of War, a Cold War adventure thriller from director Kevin Reynolds. This coming Sunday, we're discussing Sally Field's Oscar-winning performance in 1984's Places in the Heart on our Oscar Sunday podcast.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
As far as next week's sneak preview, there's not really anything coming out this weekend. There's the Jason Segel, Dakota Johnson, Casey Affleck dramedy Our Friend, but that's a theater release, so it's in no way a sure thing. So we're going to experiment a little with something pretty cool. We're going to revisit one of our all-time favorite franchises, the Dark Knight trilogy, and recast it with actors of similar skill and look to try and make a franchise cast we think could be just as good. So we'll go through Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises and recast the principal actors, so about 20 characters. It'll be a fun opportunity to just shoot the shit about the Dark Knight trilogy and have fun for an hour and change. So don't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be loads of fun. Going to be trying to do a lot of shit like that.
Yeah. If there's anything that we've missed for next week's possibilities, please reach out and let us know at filmgasm@gmail.com or Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Filmgasm Productions. Have a fantastic week, listeners.